Recording, please. Sorry.
Okay, we're ready to start.
Yeah. My name is Tobi, and today I'll be taking you through branding and why it's important for your coaching business. I like that it's a small group, so please stop me at any point if you have questions or you're not clear or you don't see anything or something's not clear on my slides. And we're not that many, and I'm sure it's not going to eat too much into the time, so please do. And I like interactive sessions as well, so
Okay.
please. Yeah. So yeah, my name is Tobi Lola. Many people call me Tobi. And yeah, just a few points about myself. I'm the director of a small branding agency called Adult Marketing. I've been at it for 9 years. When I was doing the slides, I can't believe I've been doing it that long. But yeah, I've been at it for 9 years. I'm also a visual communication designer full-time, and a brand consultant, and a full-time web developer.
Wow.
Yeah, many hats. But I'm passionate about branding. That's where my passion lies. I've helped in the 9 years I've been doing this. When I was doing report for my business last year, it turns out in 9 years I've touched over 70 brands, and wow, it's the blessing to be able to do that. And I feel like because of how much experience I've had with this, I've seen so many good and bad aspects of it, and I feel like I have a bit of an authority to speak about, you know, what's good, what's bad, and why it's important for you to think about even the things I'm going to discuss today. Mm-hmm. Today is just an overview, by no means, you know, in-depth lecture about branding, because branding is so broad, but it's just the beginning of it, and I've got a few more sessions, you know, in the coming future where we'll be going deeper into a few aspects of branding. So what is branding? Like I said, I like an interactive session, and as if you think about branding, what comes to your mind? What would you say is branding?
Ivy, you can go first. You want the spot or anything?
It's just like the identity of somebody, you know, of the company, you know. It's just like you're dressing up to go somewhere. So the way you dress up is the way you're going to appear. And then people are going to know who you are. Yeah. And then what you stand for. And you kind of stand.
Okay, so you're saying identity. Okay, anyone else?
Hi, Jennifer. Let me just welcome Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. We just started. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. We've just got started.
Hi.
Welcome.
Okay.
Good to have you here. We're just discussing what's branding.
Okay.
I would say it is, yeah, it's like your public persona, isn't it? It's what the people will know you for. It's how you sell yourself before you've even said anything. It's like non-verbal kind of stamp, you know, or however.
Okay.
Stamp on a cow or something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what many people say is when you ask what is branding, you get things like, yeah, it's your logo, it's your color palette, it's your identifying mark, what people know you for, your icon, your product, your service, the way you package yourself, you know, those are the kind of things that come. And you're right, but also wrong, because branding is so much more. It's all of it and none of it at all, because you can't really choose one of this and say this is branding. Like you said, it's your identity, but there's more to it than your identity. There's more to it than what people know you for. A definition of branding that I like is branding is the process of giving meaning to a specific product, service, or organization, and in your case, probably yourself, by creating and shaping a brand in a consumer's mind. So more or less how people see you, the process of shaping that is what branding is. Its strategy is designed to help people quickly identify, like you said, identity, experience a brand, and give them a reason to choose said brand over the competition. So it's a way of separating yourself. It's what you do to kind of make people identify you, experience you. You know, it's really broad, like I said. Just to go in, sorry, just give me 2 minutes because I've got one sec, because I've got my notes here, so I don't miss out anything. Yeah, so it's a way of giving yourself meaning as a coach, or your product or your service meaning, because only effective branding will enlighten your clients about what you're really about. So without branding, you know, it's very difficult to. I know the thing is that many people brand themselves without knowing, you know, because there are many things that come to it. So the way I see it is, when I have a perception of you, for example, you say I'm a coach, I'm a, you know, fashion coach or whatever, and you come to me, we have a conversation. By the time I leave, what I think about you is your brand to me. And, you know, as a coach, you should be working towards making sure that what you want people to feel about you, to perceive about you, is consistent at every point. And so it's the meaning, your meaning as a business, the perception people have of you, the way people identify you, and the way people experience you, or experience your services, or experience whatever your products are at every single touch point. And that's what I think is branding. But if you go out, you find like 1,000,001 definitions of branding. But like, you know, just like if you ask, you know, what is God, for example, it's personal to people sometimes. It's so broad that it's very difficult to find the right meaning. But this is what, you know, this is as close to it as I could find to define it. So just to summarize, you know, it's your identity, it's the design, it's the way people value you, it's your strategy you use, it's your logo, it's your marketing, your advertising, your identities, the way people use the trust people have for you. It's so much, you know, everything that comes in contact with you as a coach, or or comes in contact with your business, has to go through branding, so to say. So I've got a little exercise, because I think when I speak about branding and I start to say, oh yeah, it's so broad, you know, it starts to like, oh yeah, it's so broad. So what really is it? But I want you to kind of understand how big brands have actually nailed it, and the points you should be aiming to get to with your brand. So I've got 2 very, very simple exercises I want everyone to take part. I'm so glad that it's a small group so everyone can input. So the first one is, we've got this car, you know, it's not a real car, it's a concept. It's an electric car. The key message is simple, it's innovative, you know, user-friendly. What brand would you associate this car with? Just by looking at it. You don't know, there's no logo anywhere.
Or BMW.
Audi. I was associated with Audi.
What? Out of Samsung, Apple, and Audi.
Yeah.
Well,
Audi.
I would have said Audi first, but I know what I associate with Audi, and I don't think it's that. Okay, so I'm going to say Samsung, because I know Samsung. What Apple stands for, I think.
All right.
She says yes.
Okay, what would you say, Jennifer?
I would say Audi.
You say Audi. Why?
Yeah.
So I think Audi is more of a common. Why would you say it's Audi?
Because of the shape. Because of the shape, you know, they have a certain way they carve their stuff. Yeah. It's all about the shape.
It's like the Audi.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think Audi stands for simplicity?
No,
not necessarily.
No, I don't think. Oh.
So is that why you said Samsung then? Sure is.
I would choose Samsung if it came up to technology, because it's not, as Shireen said, it's not Apple related. I can't see Apple doing that.
Just to give you, this is not a real product, so it's not on the market. No, it's not on the market. It's not a real product.
Imagine, right, okay.
It's not a real product. It's just a concept, and you're saying, if this was to come out in the market, what brand would you associate it with?
Associate with, right? Okay.
Yeah, don't think about what they already have or what was already in the market. Okay. Just think about
Okay.
based on the look of it and the key message they're trying to sell, what brand would you associate it with?
Okay, if he has,
Aldi. Yeah,
I
definitely
would still go
Aldi.
for Aldi.
Yeah, for car, for electric car.
Plus,
Yeah.
it's all about the
Yeah.
design to me, like about the design.
Mm.
Aldi. Yeah, Aldi, definitely.
All right.
What would you say if I told you it's an Apple
Yeah.
car?
Interesting.
So now it's funny, like anytime I do this I always get like different results. So many people say Samsung and some people say Apple, and there you can see how, you know, it's Apple, and if you look at it you can kind of see how it's Apple in the sense of, you know, the platinum material and all of that. But then I don't think they nailed it very well, because when you look at it, it kind of looks like with the very circular tires and all of that. When you look at Audi, you're like, yeah, that's an Audi car, but it's not.
Yeah.
But yes, just kind of give you an idea of, you know, sometimes not even the bigger brands don't get it, you know, and that's when you need to spend a lot of time advertising for them, you know, for the people to actually associate products with you. So if this comes out tomorrow, for example, and this just shows on like a 5-second advert on YouTube or something, that you wouldn't really immediately say this is an Apple car, unless they've done, like, they've spent a lot of money on adverts. But the point of branding is to, okay, but if for whatever, if there's like a massive Apple logo in the middle of that car somewhere, you know, no one would, you know, have to tell you that this is an Apple car, and it might actually make you want it, because depending on what you associate Apple with. And just to give you an idea. So this is let's do a second one. What brand comes to mind when you see this?
Coca-Cola.
Yes, Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
There's no Coke logo on there.
They've got Santa Claus drinking the Coke. I remember that commercial.
And they do the big holiday truck, don't they? The big holidays are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
the red.
you see those yeah.
And the brand
Everything.
colours, yes, Mary, the brand colours.
Yeah.
We've got Nintendo, Netflix have the same brand colour.
No, definitely definitely Coca-Cola.
They have bought the market in Santa Claus, haven't they, Father Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Coca-Cola has spent so much money to make Christmas theirs.
Yeah.
So they spent so much money, and the reason why they did that, so Santa Claus to them is like their mascot, and they did that because what you associate Santa Claus and Christmas with is what they want you to associate Coke with, which is fun, family, joy, excitement, you know. And because of that, I think in 1931 they sat down and thought, you know what, we need a mascot, we need something for people to associate us with. And they thought, you know what, because Santa Claus then was not red. Santa Claus was gloomy looking and not exactly fun. And they thought, you know what, let's rebrand Santa Claus and have that as our mascot. And that's what they did. And that's why you have red Santa Clauses everywhere. That was Coca-Cola spent so much money to do that. And that's what branding is about. Sometimes it's not necessarily, so there's no Coca-Cola logo anywhere. You can say Santa Claus anywhere. They don't have like a branding of Coca-Cola anywhere, but for some reason you just start to think about Coke when you see one. So that's one way of branding. You could I don't want you to think about these two examples and say, oh yes, to have good branding you have to throw money at it. That's not the point I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, to nail branding, you know, you have to get to the point where people see you or your products or your logo or your mascot, whatever it is, and they think straight about you. And without even seeing you, for example, or without seeing your logo, or without, you know, they could hear your voice, or they could see it, like sometimes, I don't know if you had an example where someone said something like, oh my gosh, that's something that this person would say, or, you know, you just have that kind of association with someone, like, you know, that person so much that you know that this person wouldn't say something like this, but this person would say something like this, just because you kind of have that perception about them so deep in you. That's what, you know, branding is all about. Yeah. So why is branding important to you as a Black coach, or even a coach in general? I would say choosing a coach is very personal. Until recently, you will find that many Black people have never had coaches or mentors. And I would say it's not necessarily because they don't want to, but because there's a gap in the market for Black coaches. And many people want to be mentored or coached by people that look like them or have the same values, or they feel like they can understand, and the only way people can see you and say, I want you to coach me, is if you're actually sending that message to them that, okay, this is what I stand for. These are my values. This is my message. This is what I'm about. This is who I am. And the only way you can get to that point is to brand yourself. So you need to communicate at every single touch point who you are and what you're about. So it's not just about saying, this is what I'm about, this is who I am. Every single thing about your business needs to scream that fact. So your logo, for example, if you're into law, for example, and your logo is fun lawyer, has really fun font size, font types, bright yellow, all of that. As much as that is fun, you might be secluding yourself from a market of serious lawyers, for example. If you're giving the lawyer example, if you're a serious lawyer, everything is black and white. I'm a law coach, I try to coach people into getting their, law degrees or whatever it is you do. Because just using that color as an example, you're excluding maybe people that are more of a fun type lawyer, just giving that example. So who you are needs to be communicated at every touch point, what your logo looks like, what your colors are, what your tone of voice are, how you write your articles, how you write your newsletters, even down to what you wear when you go for, networking meetings sometimes. Like you said, I'm wearing yellow, but the reason why I have most of my clothes are this color, sorry, because it's very close to my brand color, really.
Right.
And there's a reason why I chose that color, because this is the kind of thing I want to communicate to people when they come to speak to me. So every single touch point, and for you to know all the touch points, because sometimes you think you know every single place that people connect with you as a brand, but you don't always know. So for example, many people don't think about reviews. What are people saying about you? That's another touch point. You're not there, you don't control it, but what can you do to make sure that when people are talking about you, they're actually selling your brand message as well? So things like that. So I just put a few ones here. All the ways in which your clients or customers come in conversation and contact with your brand. So social media, your website, your newsletters, your logo, your tone of voice, your written articles, your business cards, banners, flyers, even your price, for example. So if you're, on the higher side of things, it kind of sends a message to people, or the lower side of things sends another message to people. I know some people that will not buy anything that's too cheap because they feel like that's, who they are. And I know some people that wouldn't buy anything above a certain price because that's who they are. So your price, your products, your charisma, your mannerism is all sending a brand message of who you are. And those are just some of the touch points and every single business or coach or organization has very, very personal touch points. So it's something to sit down and actually think about, how do my customers actually come in contact with my brand, and put it all down. I saw this somewhere and I just thought it's important to know the total experience of a customer's journey is defined by the weakest brand touch point. So how many people don't write reviews until they have a bad experience? Many times when it's all good, you're like, oh good, no one does anything, you don't put down feedback. But once that one time that something goes wrong, you're ready to go on, I don't know, Trustpilot and trash that company and all of that. That's pretty much. So anytime, any part of your brand touch point that you miss out will be your weakest link and might be the one that defines you the most. So you might be great at everything else. You might have good newsletters, you might have beautiful social media, you might have, but let's say, for example, you're a shabby dresser and you go for a networking event and someone meets you and like, oh, hi, and then your hair is undone, and, that's what they'll remember, like that's, there, because that's just, you know, and that's not to say being a shabby dresser is wrong. If that's the message you want to sell, great. You know what I mean? But your weakest touch point is usually what people remember about you. Your weakest touch point is what people define your brand as, unfortunately. So it's always important to have everything, you know, just sit down with someone who, like a brand consultant, or even if you feel like you can do the work, sit down and think about every single brand touch point that you have, and trying to figure out how you can shape people's perceptions about the message that you want to sell at those touch points. So just to summarize, the role of effective branding is to have consistent brand messages across all touch points. So if your message is, I'm simple, I'm fun, you have to have that message everywhere. If your message is, I'm serious, you know, you have to have that message everywhere. It's very confusing to have, you know, different messages at different points. Like you go to your social media and you're fun, you go to LinkedIn and you're serious and like, you know, who the hell are you, you know? So yeah, so branding is therefore the act of creating consistent perception of who you are in the mind of your clients and your customers. So it's just shaping that. So whatever you do to shape that, so down from the visual aspect, so your logo, your colors, your tone of voice, what you sound like, your message, your voice message when people call you, your you know, your clothing, your website, your, you know, whatever, not just the visual things, everything that you, how do you shape the perception of who you are in the mind of your clients? That is what branding is. You know, many people focus more on the visual aspects of branding, but you have to think about it as a holistic thing. You know, everything needs to come together for it to work together. Yeah, so nice and early. So does anyone have any questions based on all the bits? I know I went through it really quickly, but I just want this to be like a nice interaction, you know, just let's talk about it. I can use what I would like is, you know, get to know a bit about what you are in terms of what kind of coach you are, and if you have questions on how to help your branding, I'm happy to speak.
Well, the first thing that popped to my mind was talking about all the touch points. If you were setting up with a brand new business, would you identify all of those touch points from the start and have a brand strategy for them? Or is it a case that you start on Instagram, then you move on to Twitter, and then you develop a website, and then you do it as you go along?
I would say when you're starting, well, hopefully you have a plan when you're starting a business. So you kind of have a plan, okay, this is what my services will be, this is what my products will be. You know, in terms of social media, it's something you sit down with a business coach, I imagine, like someone like Mary, to decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do, maybe social media, maybe Instagram or whatever. But as a brand consultant, you sit down and like, you know what, I'm selling A, B, C, right? This is my product. This is the way I plan based on my business plan. This is the way I plan to sell it, maybe on a website, maybe on Amazon, maybe on, you know, then we sit down and say, okay, this is how I plan to promote. So I tend to have social media, I tend to have some ads, I tend to have, so all of that, we sit down and hypothetically say, okay, these are the potential touch points that your customers will come get to you by. So if you have an office and they have a telephone number that they can get you, so you know what's going to happen when you pick up the phone and someone speaks to you. If you have a website, what does your website look like? You know, what's the journey on your website? If you've got, you know, what does your product look like? What does your packaging look like? What does if it's a service, how do you word your services? You know, your social media, what does it look like? How are you arranging things? What colors are you using? What does your logo look like? You know, so it all depends on what your product is, and at that point it's more based on what your business plan has down, more hypothetical than realistic. And that's why branding is continuous, because as you grow, your touch points start to increase, you know, because at that point you don't necessarily have reviews, for example. At that point you probably have only one social media. At that point, you know, you probably don't have any articles you've written down, or you know, any awards or, you know, any of those things that you can use to discuss how you can shape people's, so but as you grow, the touch point starts to increase, and you know, there's always something to come back to and say, okay, yes, now my customers are coming to me via this, or I'm starting to, you know, and sit down and do a brand audit, you know, as frequently as you can, and be able to make sure that your perception is not changing and people are still perceiving you correctly.
As you grow. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Hello, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Let me see if they can see me. It's about, obviously, when you started, I think when you asked about what branding was, and I didn't say anything because I was walking on the road. I think, and you rightly said about people's perception of your brand or your company or yourself kind of stuff. And I think, so my question is, do you, because a lot of time people think, oh, this is who I am. This is what I would like people to know, that, or like know me for example. But then what people actually know of you or know you by, it's a completely different thing, right? So there's like already a misalignment between who you think you are or who you are and who people actually think you are. So do you think it might be helpful? Do you think it's something that brand or business should do, like maybe once in a while, like you rightly said, brand audit, but one of them could be them asking maybe their past client, or even just throwing out on social media, just ask, when you hear my name or when you see my logo, what do you assign to, like, what do you think of it?
Yeah, usually when I say brand audits, now it can be as deep or as little depending on your budget. So now if you go to a massive brand agency and they say, oh, I want to do a brand audit, they come and they ask you, what's your goal? I want to shape my message, you know, and they ask you, how do people see you right now? If you don't have an answer to that question, many of them actually go in to do market research.
Right.
So they go in to find out from your customers, your stakeholders, everyone that has touch points, and actually figure out what the message is now, because until you know what's happening now, you can't really change things, because as a brand consultant, I just know what you tell me, really. So if it's a case where you sat down and like, oh yeah, this is what people think about me, I've done the work, and you come to me, I can work with you to change your brand message, but you might be wrong. You know, if you really want to get it right, is to actually go down and drill down and actually do the work of research. That's where audit, you know, comes in, you know, go into every single touch point, trying to figure out what do people really think about, ask the right questions to your stakeholders, your partners, your customers, your suppliers, whatever it is, just so that people can really understand what people think of you, what's the perception, before we start to think about changing it. And that's why, you know, branding for a new startup is a bit easier, because it's more of a hypothetical situation. But by the time you start to grow, the work is a lot more, because you have to go deeper, because you have to change what people already think, or make sure that you're actually going in the right path, and you have to keep doing it consistently. So you can't just say, oh yeah, I found out 2 years ago that people think about that. That could change based on whatever reason. So it has to be something that's done consistently.
Yeah. I think you might have mentioned it, but just to clarify again, thank you for that, by the way, that made a lot of sense. Could you please clarify, as a business or as a coach or whatever, in your own experience, what are the practical, typical touch points that a coach would have, so that way people can actually go home and start thinking, okay, this is my touch point based on what to be said. These are my areas that I have touch points. Let me go and look at each of this stuff, for example, and start thinking, am I even consistent across board? My messages in everything.
I think as a coach, what makes you different from a normal business is that you're selling yourself. So not necessarily the product, but you've got your services, but what people are buying into is you as a person. So your touch points really is you. How do you show up? Different ways that you show up. So if, you know, for example, if I use Mary, for example, you've got your weekly social media videos that you do, that's one touch point that people see you. You've got your newsletters, that's another touch point that people see you. You've got your, you know, if someone sends you a message or an email and say, oh, I want your services, you know, how quickly you respond, how you respond, that's another touch point. You've got your, even the way you word your services. When people go into your website or your social media handles or whatever and say, oh yeah, I want to work with you, what services does she have? How you word them, that's another touch point. You've got your logo, you've got your colors, you've got, you know, as yourself, you know, you've got the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way your mannerisms are. You know, there are some people as a coach, many people will buy into your energy. You know, some people are very bubbly and they want to work with someone very bubbly. Some people are more on the reserve side and they want to work with someone very reserved. And it makes no sense if you're a reserved person trying to force being bubbly just because you think that's the right way to go. Because, you know, you're losing out on potential people that you would actually love working with just because you're trying to copy someone else. So that's another touch point, your mannerisms, your tone of voice, the way you speak, the way you look, you know, and there's so many things, you know, and depending on how big you are, you know, if your website is something that has a lot of traffic, you know, where your website is linked to, that's another touch point. So if people copy, you know, your articles to maybe other websites, you know, you need to, these are things that you need to start to trace. You know, how do people use your words? How do people quote you in other places? You know, do you have a book? That's another touch point. Do you have other products that you sell on Amazon? You know, do people have reviews of you? You know, do people talk about you a lot in a certain way? You know, just there's so many things. There's so many things to start to think about. But yeah, just this, I think these are a few ones I could think about off the top of my head without sitting down to actually see what your business does. Does that answer your question? Hello?
I think that was a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that answered my question.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Toby, so for new people just starting out in coaching, if you want to work on your branding, what do you think is the key thing that you need to do when you devise your marketing plan with regards to the branding side of it?
I would say, first of all, you need to, I think, decide on your brand message. What are the key things that you want? That's why it's good to work with a brand consultant. What's your brand message? What do you want people to perceive about you? So Apple is, you know, simple, user-friendly, innovative. That's who they are. And everything they do is about that. How they show it sometimes doesn't work, sometimes they fail, but that's what they want to show at every point and every product that they sell. So if, you know, you sit down and like, oh, I'm a coach, what is your brand message? And what is your brand message? Sometimes, you know, it's a trial and error. It's not necessarily you get it right first time. But then once you have a brand message, you decide, okay, what are my touch points? How do I then shape people's perception? I think with marketing is a bit different. Marketing is part of branding, but marketing, the method of marketing that you choose, I always say when you first start, you know, always start first, always push marketing a little bit further. Try to make sure that you know what you're doing first before you start to throw in money at marketing, if you know what I mean. You know, get your brand messages right, get your visual elements right, get your products right, because a lot of times when you start a new business, you know, there's a lot of trial and error, and you don't want, because it's always good to have that trial and error on a smaller scale than a bigger scale. And with the way marketing is now and advertising now, for example, if you throw some money at Facebook or Instagram, you very easily go to 1 million people, and if you make a mistake, that's 1 million people that have the wrong perception of you on the get-go.
Yeah, definitely.
So always my advice really is to start small, make sure you get it right before you start to promote it, if you know what I mean. So have that, try it, and you'll find that there are many companies that would say, I know you've got the big ones, the Coca-Cola and all of that, but there are many companies that until they got big did not spend a lot of money on advertising, because they got their branding right and they actually attracted the right people to them and grew more or less by word of mouth. So branding is that powerful. If you get it right, it's so powerful that, you know, you might not even need to convince people who you are. You might start to attract the right people and get that word of mouth publicity without having to throw money at it, if it makes sense. If that answers your question.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you. Another question, sorry to be a pain, but right. You know, when you're just new to coaching and you cannot afford a brand consultant, working on it yourself, what do you think are the key elements? I know you specified right in the beginning those touch points that we should we should keep in mind, which is really good, and I think that's very helpful. But for people who are just new to coaching, that no, I can't afford to get a brand consultant, so I have to do this on my own. So when they're working on their branding, what are the key elements that they need to make sure their target audience understands out of everything they put out? Yeah, I can see this. Social media, websites, logos, tone of voice, written articles, business cards, banners and flyers, price, your Christmas mannerism, your charisma and mannerism, and your product. Yeah.
These are just some of them. To be like, I just put some based on what I could think about as a coach, but it's very difficult to say what should you focus on, because even coaches are different in what they do. You know, as much as there's a generalistic of saying I'm a coach, but if, for example, you're a coach that does dancing, you know, one of your touch points is your YouTube videos. That might not be the same for many other coaches, you know. So depending on what you do, and it's as much as I think many brand consultants or even professionals always do like a free, you know, maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour, you know, just that insight. And I'm yet to see anyone that knows their stuff that would not be happy just to speak to you and get to know you. And I think at every stage that you are, you always find someone that you can afford. Maybe not to do a full audit, but at least guide you in a direction you should be going. So I would always say, because your business is a person on his own, and for you to succeed, you need to spend money. I'm not saying, you know, go break a bank or lose, you know, but you have to think about what value am I gaining? Because the time you're spending trying to do it on your own, you might spend like years failing, as opposed to actually getting it right from the get-go. So I wouldn't say definitely do this if you want to do it by yourself, because you might get it wrong. So these are a few things that I've thought about. But then even on their own, like I just put social media, but there's a lot that goes into social media. There's a lot that goes into your logo. There's a lot that goes into your business cards. There's a lot that goes into your tone of voice. If you're going to get branding right, and only someone who actually knows their stuff can actually tell you and put you in the right direction. They might not do it for you, depending on how much you have. You know, the larger companies are willing to just throw money at it and say, you know what, do it for us. But, you know, there are other brand consultants that are ready to guide you in the right direction after sitting down for maybe an hour or two with you to kind of put you, you know, in the right path. From best and, you know.
Because I was fortunate recently because I managed to get someone to audit my Instagram profile bio, and they looked at it. They said, we'll get back to you within like 3 days. And then they sent me back a Loom video of their analysis of what I did, what they think I could work on to make my messaging more clear. But with Instagram, you only have that limited tiny amount of space to write what you do, which is so hard to squeeze in that little space. And I find that really difficult to squeeze into that little box. Because by the time I say what I do, it's filled out.
I think
what do I do to work on that, or how can I work on that to make my messaging more clear? What tips do you give to people to get their messaging more clear with regards to Instagram bios and even your Facebook bio as well, because Instagram, Facebook, they're both like brother and sister or cousins or whatever. So yeah.
Mara, did you want to say something first?
All right, okay, yeah, I can see the router has logged
God,
into
I'm on the phone to internet people.
working now.
All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, sorry, we moved out and we're sorting internet out. So regarding your question, Jennifer, so when, and please correct me, Tobi, if I'm wrong, when you talk about messaging, your messaging is not a one-day thing, and it's not necessarily just your bio on Instagram or Facebook thing. It's your everyday thing. What you say on your feed, in your post. So your bio is just to talk about who you are, what you do, and the result you get people. But it's how you show up and what you say when you show up. So everybody that, like, for me, for example, I'm a business coach. So I'm sure some people already know what I'm about to say when I open my mouth, or they already kind of know what my post might be about, for example. They know what I will write in my caption, because I'm constantly, there's a message I'm giving. Like, I have another organization called Bloom. So it's all about women being made for more, for example. That is the message I want to get across. So any of my posts, whether stories or live or even in my bio, anywhere that I am, you will always see or know that Mary is talking about women being made for more. So it's not a static thing. It's a continuous thing when it comes to our messaging, is what you say, how you say it, and just making sure that what you stand for is embedded somehow in those things that you're saying. And it might be in your quote, it might be in your caption. So it's not just about your bio. It's about how you're showing up every day, what you're saying, how you're saying it, that kind of stuff. That's my 2 nuggets.
Yeah, you're completely right. And what if I shock you that most people don't actually read your bio until they read your services? Most people do not read your bio. So what they see is your latest post, or maybe a featured post or something. And if, at your latest post does not, in that 30 seconds or 15 seconds, does not shout who you are, what you're about, they just scroll past, because people have very low attention span. You find, I was joking with a friend the other day that, with many companies, many people don't go onto the people's websites anymore unless they're looking for a job and they want to learn about what you do for the interview, so like, as much as things like having a bio or having a website are great, because you never know who's looking and you have to be consistent in those areas, but you shouldn't be too focused on that, because many people have, so it's more about how you show up every day. Like Mary said, everywhere that you are, you should shout what you're about. So you shouldn't, I think many people, spend, and I know there's a lot of people that make a lot of money just based on, let's get your bio right. But most people don't look at it. Like, I don't even know what's on Mary's bio, to be honest. I have no clue, but I know what she's about. I know, I don't know what's on ABC's bio. I don't think I've ever read it, but I know what you're about. So but it's about what your posts are every day, and it's about how you show up. It's about what you talk about. It's about when you go live, what do you say? It's about when you put jokes up, what kind of jokes do you put, so it's not necessarily, I'm not saying bios are not important, because sometimes people do look at them when they really want to get to know you, especially when they want to buy into you. So that's really important, but that's not what will drive people to you. That's more of what happens when people have already bought into you and they want to learn more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. Thanks. That was
Jennifer,
great.
Jennifer, can I ask, have you chosen a niche yet? What kind of coaching?
Yes, I have. My niche is working with professionals with chronic health issues or health conditions.
Right. Okay.
And basically helping them to awaken their vision in something that they're passionate to do.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's strong, actually. Good niche.
Yeah. Very good niche.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ivy, how about yours? I'm interested to find out who we all are and what we do.
Myself. Yeah, I'm originally an architect myself, and then from architecture, I merged into coaching.
Right.
So since the pandemic, I merged into coaching. I did all training and all those things, and the mentorship aspect of it. Then now I develop as well some courses, and I'm setting up as well programs in terms of to aid in the community, the minority, to be specific. So that's what brought me to the journey here with the Association of Black Coaches, because I want to tailor it down to our community, because we have a way of being and a language of the way to navigating through the world that not everybody understands.
Yeah.
Solely ourselves can understand ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Very
so
true.
I have a
Very
problem
true.
here.
That's brilliant.
So that is the journey. I mean, and but hopefully with that vehicle that we are assembling in terms of the program for the community, bringing out the pain in them, converting it into an asset, setting up businesses from their pain. And so we will be raising funding for that. So that's the journey I'm in myself. So I consider myself as a business relationship architect, because I harvest the emotions, and then from coming from the architectural background, we assemble it in a way and we create relationships from it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective on it as well, coming from the art, coupling your career and what you studied and your passion with coaching is brilliant. I really like that. I was going to ask Mary, but she's come off the line. Mary Sensi, I'm just going to ask her. For myself, I'm a parent and teen coach, and I specialize in repairing relationships between parents and their teenage children. Yeah, fall in love with your teen again, and my ethos is really like when your children are small, they're the apple of your eye, and you want them close, and you want them, and slowly as they get older and they hit that teenage stage, they want their independence. That's fine, but often there's rifts and stuff that can happen between families at that point. And actually, I think personally that when they're that little bit older, 15, 16, I think that's when you need them closer, or you need to know what's going on. And that's often where the relationship gets fractured in those years. So it's really about getting parents to change their perspective a little bit about how their teens remember what you were like as a teen, how you were forced to feeling. We forget that really quickly. And it's really about getting teens to stand up and take a bit more responsibility for their own actions and their own behaviours that they do, and then put that under the umbrella of repairing those and healing those relationships. So I've had a lot of experience working with young people as a coach. I was coaching young people as young as year 4. So they're like 7 and 8 year olds. And once they get the concept of coaching, they really get it. It's amazing coaching little people. And all the way up to teenagers, year 11, 16, 17 year olds. So yeah, and I'm currently working in a sixth form college at the moment, working with young people. So that's what I do. Yeah. Because I don't know if anyone's got any teenagers.
Yeah,
Well,
almost.
I have a 6-year-old, but I think she's a teenager somehow. So
we call them a tween or a pre-tween. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
My children are big now. I'm a grandmother.
Who's that? You, Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm a grandmother.
Congratulations.
You don't look it. Oh my God, Jennifer.
Yeah. One grandma to another. So how old are your grandchildren, Jennifer?
He's 1 year and 4 months.
Oh, congratulations. Wow. You've got a diddy one.
Yeah, he's so adorable.
That's so
he has
nice.
Such a little entertaining personality. It's unbelievable.
Oh, proud grandma.
Very, very proud grandma. Yeah.
Yes, grandma. Yes. I'm a grandma. I've got 4 grandchildren, and my eldest
that's
is
wonderful.
10.
Oh
She's
my
10.
gosh.
And she is a pre-tween. She's a proper tween. Like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Where's my
baby
gone?
Gosh. I think hormones start early in girls as well.
Girls, hormones,
they scare me.
Yeah. And I've got 3 sons, so the granddaughters are like.
I've got 2 boys, but only one's got a child.
Right.
But yeah, it's an experience.
And how was your tween? How was your teenage stage with your boys?
They were both very different, very quiet, but they started to identify more with our Black culture when they turned into teenagers.
Okay, that's
and yeah, I found that fascinating, living in a multicultural country. But yeah, they very much adapted to their Black side, and they believe, you know, they like Black people. They want our Black ethnicity to be recognized in society, most definitely now, especially. It's really weird.
Yeah,
I thought they've grown up to be very accepting of everybody, but no, they think, no, this has been unfair and that's been unfair and things need to change. But yeah, hormones, I say, hormones.
They've got a lot to answer
boys
for,
and
hormones.
Boys and girls go through it.
Yeah, well, I found this session really interesting in terms of branding, because often I started my coaching business about 6 years ago now, 6 years ago. And there's certain things that I started in the beginning that I haven't done an audit and I haven't reviewed for a long time. You just kind of carry on, adding to it without actually checking, am I still on track? Is the message that I started off with the same message that I'm putting out now? And little things like that. So this has been really useful for me to think about and to recheck in and actually think, am I still aligned? Does my brand still align to the services that I'm selling now, as opposed to what I was doing 6 years ago? So yeah, that's what I'm going to think about.
I totally agree with you, Shireen. Totally agree with you. I think listening today, because I've been thinking a lot about my business plan, what I've done, and it's made me want to think, I need to go back. I need to make little adjustments here in this marketing strategy, in the plan of, in my SWOT analysis, everything. It just needs to be reevaluated now. And I feel that I do understand a little bit more with this explanation. Thank you, Toby. But yeah, it's been very helpful. And
well, if you've got any more, come on, sorry.
No, I do feel like when I go, well, I'm at my mum's now, but when I go home, I'm going to have a look at my marketing strategy and my marketing plan, and I think it needs to be re-evaluated. But then again, I think a lot of us need to keep going back and re-evaluating our strategies as we go along, because it evolves almost continuously. So you will constantly be evolving as the world evolves, because we've had to evolve to COVID.
Exactly.
And now we have to evolve to post-COVID now. It's a lot for us to do. So people are out there, people need help, and we need to be constantly evolving to help people who are evolving in life and society on a whole. But yeah, I think this has been really, really good.
And I'm hoping, I was going to say that actually we could use the WhatsApp group to start sharing links, like, you know, information, resources. We've got a place for it on the site, but obviously not everyone has time to jump on the website. But we're using the WhatsApp group to share resources and links, articles, things that would be interesting. Hopefully, I don't know, Toby, if you've got any resources for us from this course that we could put onto the website and share with everybody, and actually start talking about things in the chat on the WhatsApp, because we've got a lot of experience between us, you know, and we know a lot, you know, that we can share, and I think that's definitely worth thinking about and worth doing. And I think what I'm going to take away from today is a bit what Mary said, actually, is just checking in to make sure that the image that I think I'm putting out is the image that my clients, that it aligns. What I think I'm putting out there is they're getting. There might be a big chunk missing in the middle that I haven't realised, and take it from there. So I think that's something that I want to do post-COVID. Yeah, definitely, and make sure that my message is still on track. So that's been really useful for me. Yeah.
I think we've got Jennifer.
Also, Jennifer.
Yeah, I think, hello, sorry about that. Yes, thanks. I was wondering if we could get, I know it's only a small presentation, but if we could just get a copy of the slides, Toby, that would be really good. Because then it's got little points that are quite significant. I did screenshot a couple, but some of the messaging, I didn't catch everything. So if you could send a link in the WhatsApp group, if that's possible, that would be really great.
We'll get a slide.
The WhatsApp group is very, I find it very helpful, the WhatsApp group. I know I can't answer to everything at the time, but you can always go back and click on the link if you need something. And that's really, really good, because then you know you don't really need to miss anything. So yes, I do love the WhatsApp group.
Okay, that's really good feedback for us as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I think it's really good. I'm glad that it was started, because I don't like using Messenger, but this week we had a problem where Facebook was hijacked by a whistleblower, and WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, they were all affected. It was all stood still for I don't know how many hours, but
6 hours.
No one could use WhatsApp for the day, basically.
Yes.
But the next day it was back.
Best 6 hours I've had ever.
Yeah, it was long, because I was thinking, why is the things not going through? What's wrong? It's supposed to go through. But yeah, I realized they were hijacked. But yeah.
No, I did not notice when that happened.
Really?
Really?
It was the next day that I was like, what happened? What are people talking about? Yeah.
We were due to start a meeting, and we always shared the meeting link in the WhatsApp group, and all of a sudden it was like, I don't know what to do.
It just wasn't responding.
And then
it wasn't responding to anything.
No, it just was turning around. I thought, oh, what am I going to do? I was trying to look at my Wi-Fi, check my box. And then in the end, when I realised, I went on Twitter and I saw it had gone down, I was like, I just put my phone down for a bit and just rest now. No one's going to bother me for nothing for as long as this lasts. I really like this. And then they started messaging me on iMessage instead. I thought, oh man.
Well, thank you guys. It's past 8, and I know some of you have work tomorrow, so I'm not going to be selfish, because I don't have work tomorrow. So I'll let you guys go. But again, once again, thank you so much, Tobi, for coming and speaking to us. It's been amazing. I'm sure you've heard it from everybody as well. Thanks everybody for joining, and hope you've learned a thing or two. And I can't wait to see you come back and say, this is what I did, this is what I did. I would love to see what you've done based on this night session. But thank you. We're going to upload the video and the slides on our website, and we'll share the link in the WhatsApp group. Don't worry, sometimes this week. But thank you for joining, and have a pleasant evening. Take care of yourself, guys.
Yeah, and new podcast.
Thank you,
tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Looking forward to it.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Tobi.
Thank you, Tobi. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Bye.
Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, I'm going to do this recording.